Welcome, everyone, to Women Talk Construction, where we share real stories, amplify bold voices, and spotlight incredible women doing just incredible work out there in construction and manufacturing, all of it. And we have a really special guest today that actually is in the architectural part of the business. So I'm very excited about that. I'm Angela Gardner, one of your co hosts, and we have our guest co host here with us today, Alex. Welcome, Alex.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Angela.
she's hanging out with us today to take Christy's spot because she had to take care of some personal matters. So everybody be thinking of her too. And so we are inspired to educate and connect through honest conversations and these awesome trailblazing women. Please be sure to always check out our monthly newsletter, sign up, and definitely give us feedback. Go click that like on social or on your favorite listening podcast and tell us what you'd like to hear too. So let's go on ahead and get started and dive in. So today with us, we have Meg Terry, and she is the CMO and principal at DP3, an architectural firm here in Greenville, South Carolina. And actually, she'll share like probably where they actually do work because I'm not really even sure myself. I'm sure they've grown. I I know some of the specifics, but I'll let her share more of that. But she's super cool. We're so excited to have her. And she is a past president of the American Arts Institute of Architecture in South Carolina. And that's a pretty cool deal because many of you have heard my dad is an architect, and I know how hard of a program that is and what it is like to be a female in this business. We really only had one at our firm, and that was a while back ago. So, and I noticed that I did go to the DP3 website, and y'all have a lot of females on your team, and that's
Yep.
pretty cool. So, and you have a huge team, so which
Mhm.
is really cool. So, let's dive into this. Meg, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get started with the questions.
Sure. Thanks, Angela and
Yeah.
Alex. I'm excited you're here with us today. Um, so thank y'all for having me. Again, I'm Meg Terry, DP3 Architects. I am in my 21st year here at the firm, and we're a second generation firm, which is really exciting. And we've been given the privilege to kind of take this firm into the next generation, which has always been something that I think the founders really wanted to see here. So we focus mainly in the upstate, but we do have studios, hospitality restaurant studio that goes nationwide, which is really cool because our folks get to travel and see different places, but also serve different communities in that way as well. So I'm from North Carolina, rural North Carolina, the Sand Hills, and grew up there until I was 18 and then went to school at the University of Tennessee to get my Bachelor of Architecture degree from there and then became a Greenvillian. So I've been here for quite a while, and DP3 is my second firm. I was at my first firm for 3 years and then moved here, and this has become home. So
Oh,
it's a really
yeah.
exciting trajectory of career, but I've made Greenville home, and I've made it a place that I want to participate in and be a part of, and really get engaged in the community.
Awesome.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Meg, for that lovely um, bunch of information. We are so
Yeah.
excited to have you. And thank you so much for allowing me to attempt to fill Christy's big shoes today.
It'll be great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I know you just mentioned that DP3 is really big on community engagement, that you personally are really big on community engagement. So I'd like to know why you believe civic engagement is essential for architects and how it shapes a healthier, more connected communities.
Sure. So, in school, they teach you, you're looking at a project, you're in a bubble, you're kind of creating this, synergy of yourself in this project. Whereas in reality, there's lots of different factors, and those always tend to be community factors. So, being an architect and designer that listens and really whether it's residents or users or organizations or whomever it is that's using the facility, it all has an impact on the people that surround that and the community that surround those projects. So that's really whether it's a piece of community architecture or a privately owned restaurant or commercial building or whatever it might be, it's still the engagement section of that and how it's going to affect the community in the long run is such a big part of the consideration that we all should take in design. And whether it's the architecture side or the civil design side or landscape architecture side. So listening and understanding, that understanding of social and cultural dynamics has been really interesting. So I have been lucky enough to serve on multiple city boards, one being the Planning Commission while we were doing the new Greenville Development Code. And we heard hundreds of voices from the public and their concerns, their excitement, the things that they were worried about. And hearing those things from perspectives of people that live in those neighborhoods, that deal with that traffic, that deal with that development every day, really kind of makes you think differently because you don't live in a bubble. So being able to get outside of that and really, um, help influence the environment to the good, and not just environment in the sense of the emissions and that sort of thing, but the environment socially and culturally is a big part of that. And so I think it's
Mm.
all of our responsibilities as designers and architects and contractors and anybody that touches that type of realm. We have to be good stewards of the things that we're given and the things that we're given to hold and to create and to ultimately have people use.
Oh, yeah. We're hearing a lot of that. I mentioned we've only had a couple of architects on our show, but we definitely hear the contractors, the GCs are saying that. They're definitely getting involved in the community before they move forward with projects, and they're involving the community in projects. So it's great to hear like the full circle of
Yeah.
everyone doing it, right? I mean, that's so
Yep.
important. So let's move on. So how has strategic partnerships with contractors, which just talked about,
Mhm.
engineers and city leaders transform your approach to design and planning? Because you've got to incorporate all them, because a lot of times you're either the first or the second one on the job site, right? Like,
That's
or
right.
you might even be the one hiring those individuals for the job,
Yep.
right?
Yep. So the key to really all of that is fostering that we actually call it architecture by team here at DP3.
Ah, I like it.
So the intention behind that phrase, and that was coined years ago by our former partners, Mike Taylor and Mark Eggle. Um, and it really has become kind of the premise we live by because it goes back to this idea of everybody, you're there to listen and facilitate. You do have the knowledge. I mean, we've got the experience and the knowledge, but we're only there to listen and facilitate and put our our expertise in the bag to make sure that this project or whatever we're doing is turning out the best it can.
Yeah.
So when we approach projects with contractors, particularly in the CMR realm, um, the contract CM at risk, it's important. And even in the a typical design bid build or design build setting, everybody has a seat at the table, and that's really
Mm.
important because everybody has a different experience, they have a different mindset, they've got a different the knowledge that they have comes from different places. um, so everybody has a valuable insight in some way or the other. So
Oh,
really
yeah.
sitting down and thinking about this solutions focused design process that is not generic, because every project is different. So the key is that we create something that is specific to that opportunity. It's not generic. And that's one thing that we were starting to see some in this development in Greenville was
Mm.
developers coming in from different places, and this is their formula, which is fair. I mean, they're here to make money, but shifting this mindset to say we're Greenville, we're different, we've got to have solutions that are specific to our community. And that's really part of this collaboration between the
Mm.
civic side, the contractor side, the architects, the civil engineers, and all the engineers. And that's really where, this partnership idea is important. And so having a seat at the table for everybody that's involved in a project and being able to be open to listening to everybody's idea and culminating that into a really awesome project is the goal at the end of
Oh,
the day.
yeah. Awesome goal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Amazing. What great points. Thank you so much, Meg.
Yeah.
And you also created a beautiful segue for me into
Oh,
our
you're
third
welcome.
question. I'm actually really excited to hear your answer to this one. What architectural trends are you most excited about, and how are they shaping the way that people are building and how the rest of us are living and experiencing?
Sure. I think there's so much noise right now about different things, whether it be AI, the environment. And so really culling those down to the things that we know are impactful to people that are our clients is something that we've tried to be really thoughtful and cognizant about, because AI is a tool. And if you start to think about the implications of AI in particular, you, there's the energy side of it, because AI takes a lot of energy. Every time you hit chat GPT and ask it a question, it's taken an enormous amount of energy to create that answer. So then on the other side of that, through AIA, you've got the Committee on the Environment and understanding that energy use. So there's a balance there of using this tool in a way that's, thoughtful, but also being cognizant that it's also drawing resources from places that we may not see or know. So we've had a lot of discussion in this office about AI and how we use it appropriately. So that will continue to evolve as we understand it better. We use it for right now, it's my spell checker for the most part, and my bad grammar checker because I'm terrible at grammar and spelling both. Um,
Yeah, I use
but
Grammarly.
yeah, then me too. That one too.
Yeah.
Anything that can help me. Um, but then there's the other side, which is VR, and we love, 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 love VR. We have a dedicated room in this office that stays set up, and our designers and architects and clients. Matter of fact, we've got 2 meetings next week with clients coming in to get in their building to walk through VR. It is a tool that we have found can change the way people understand the building we're helping them create. And for us too, the spatial value, the way the building sits on the site, it's all really important to help create these spaces that people are comfortable with. It's hard for people to visualize sometimes, and we don't want to ask them to, because that's not their job, that's our job. So being able to have this tool that communicates that back to them in a way that they can understand has really been invaluable. On the flip side of that, there's also this focus. We do a lot of work in corporate interiors as well. So this idea of these, kind of reuse of a building, whether it's multi-tenant or single tenant, and being able to use that embodied energy in that building to create these sort of flexible multi-use work environments is another part that, it may not be the sexiest thing, but it is something that, these buildings on the ground, they've been there, since the 80s and 90s. Let's revamp them and make sure it's good square footage and people need it. Um, so just creating a way that brings those into a modern aesthetic, a modern technology focus, and these buildings are adaptable. So, you know, and COVID showed us that all that changes in a whim. And so being able to be flexible and agile as we change these spaces from, being a 10,000 square foot office to a 2,000 because half the staff has gone home to work. That's important. And how do you scale that? So that's another, it's definitely maybe not a big trend, but it's one of the trends we're seeing pretty regularly is how are we smart about the spaces we're creating for folks that may need to ebb and flow in their size?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And especially with like the changes we're seeing, like you mentioned, with AI and VR and um, just all of it. It's a lot. I wanted to, you kind of touched on the AI and VR a little bit, in the design, like where you're seeing the trends and how it's shaping the built world. and even from your perspective in the design part. But like, how are you using these processes rather than replacing them for your world? Like, I mean, how do you use them efficiently? I didn't really realize that every time I hit GPT, I was using so much energy, but it makes sense.
Yep. And I think that's what people don't necessarily understand.
No.
It's not a wide known. I mean, my husband and I were in driving through Arizona last summer, and there is an enormous power
Is there really?
generation. Yes, I mean, it's like acres, and that's where your AI is being charged from.
I don't know if that's pretty to look at, is it?
It's not pretty to look at. It's really not. The good news is it's way outside of Phoenix, so you don't really see
Yeah.
it. But it
Okay.
also is way outside of Phoenix, and you don't really see it.
Yeah.
Um, so there's just a knowledge base there. It is a tool, and understanding
Mhm.
just the commentary around it not replacing us as educated human beings. Everything needs a personal touch. AI
Yeah.
can learn us, absolutely, but it is not. Um, it should never be intended as a replacement of critical thinking, and that's where it can't see. It can only see what you tell it, and it can only see what the internet's giving it. It's
Mhm.
obviously pulling from all these places. So being able to use that to your advantage and efficiency. I mean, it is efficient. It's efficient to do things with that, whether it's pulling great imagery for, character boards, or you're asking it to go culminate this information or this data. Those types of things are great, but it should never replace, you know, whether it's floor plans or building design, or that's
Yeah.
something that is again, it's specific, it's not generic. It's just creating a culmination of all those things that it thinks might be the right answer.
Yeah. Wow. AI and VR.
It's a
Mm.
big it's a bit apparent. I didn't go to the AA conference in Boston this past June, but apparently that was an enormous topic of discussion in all the
Oh, it
panels.
is everywhere.
Mhm.
Everywhere, every industry, and I
Oh,
hear that we haven't even cracked the surface of it yet, so
nope. I know, it's kinda scary. I don't
yes,
need
it
to be
is.
don't replace me.
Well,
I need
I
a
mean,
job.
I know.
me too,
Like,
girl.
yeah, you'll keep a job. I don't think it's gonna take our jobs, but
No, I hope not.
Amazing. Well, obviously, this is a quickly evolving industry, given all of the different variables we've discussed today. And, your piece of it may be a little bit extra, right? Because of how these tools affect what you're doing, and you
Mhm,
guys being kind of the basis of each project, right? Like you guys are kind of where everything starts.
mhm.
So what kind of advice would you give to emerging architects today who are looking to build a meaningful career as things are shifting so quickly?
Yeah, so quickly is the key word in this. And things may be happening quickly, but patience is a virtue. Um, so I think it's very hard for the generation that's coming out of school today, and previous generations, and me, frankly, to be patient. But that is ultimately good things just take time, and getting things correct and the best it can be. We're all on schedules, we all have budgets, we all need to do it in an efficient manner. But just taking that little bit of extra time it's okay to be patient in your career. It's okay to be patient as something evolves, and it's just going to make it better. So be curious, embrace this idea of collaboration. Everybody has a voice. And then, focus on designing with a purpose and being a part of um, that community. The building a career, you've got to have this, you got to have the knowledge, you got to have the technical skill, you got to understand how building goes together, but you also need to build this idea of empathy and how you communicate and listen to communities and clients and colleagues, and not create it with ego. Really create it with an idea of the knowledge that creating spaces that matter. And so, and they matter for not just now, they matter for, I mean, we're dealing on campuses in the upstate higher education campuses that have been there for 100 years. And so we're dealing with buildings that are that old. And so it matters. And I do think sometimes with our throwaway society, it's hard to understand that that building's going to be there for the next century, more than likely. And we just need to be cognizant about how that gets designed. Is it sustainable? And really, does it create a good human connection?
That's amazing advice. And I think applicable to just about anybody who has anything to do with construction. So
Yeah.
thank you so
for
much.
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Meg, I learned a lot. I think
Good.
Angela did too.
Oh, I did.
Thank you
Yes,
so
I
much.
did. And I got to know you better. Yeah.
Good. Good. I like it.
Would you please share with our audience how they can best get in touch with you if they are interested in working with you guys or learning a little bit more?
Sure. You can always find me on LinkedIn, Meg Terry, or our website is fantastic, www.dp3architects.com. That's always a good place too. And we've got a great team of, I think we're up to like 36 folks now-ish.
Wow.
So we're growing, which is exciting. And yeah, feel free to reach out.
Well, thank you, Meg, and everybody for joining us on Women Talk Construction today. We hope today's conversation inspired, challenged, or gave you a fresh perspective. I know it did for me. Please don't forget to follow, share, leave a review, leave a comment on your favorite streaming service. If you love the episode, be sure to send it to your friends, anybody who could benefit from hearing lovely Meg's advice, which again, I think is everybody, but that's just me. And we'll be back soon with more voices from the field. And until then, keep building confidence, community, and a future where everyone belongs. Thanks, everybody.
Yes. Thank you.